Hey, Mistakes listeners, this is once again Dave, speaking on behalf of Todd as well. It is great again to present another episode to you. This would be episode 7. We looked at the tween drama Mako Mermaids, and join us under the sea. Here we go. Oh, this episode was recorded on July 15th, 2015. So, we're back here with parenting mistakes again, right?
Yes.
Are we like, well, what show is this? This is episode
7.
7?
7.
Lucky number 7, right?
Yes. Except we don't believe in luck.
What? Oh, right, back to the mission. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I see. So, I got these guys that are working behind my house. I kid you not, and they are building a road.
Okay.
Right? You ever seen a road and all of the tampers? The tamp, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, they got like giant tampers, right?
Wow.
And this morning I came in and my bed, I was like looking at my wife and I'm like, she's kind of vibrating. Like literally my bed is vibrating. I have a sleep comfort bed. I sleep on air. What are they doing to this planet? If
Your whole house is shaking?
It is. It's insane. I don't know what to do. Or
See, I'm not really impressed by that story because I live in California, so Southern California.
What?
Well,
what?
You know, earthquakes.
Every day?
Not every
you
day.
have earthquakes? Like
No,
you come
well,
in and, hey baby.
Actually, that's not true. That is not true. We actually do have earthquakes every day. We have earthquakes every day in Southern California. You don't necessarily feel all of them, but if you go on like the Richter scale website, they'll show little earthquakes all over the place.
Really?
Yeah. But yeah, we have a few a year that you notice.
As a Californian,
yeah.
You have to like go to that website every day. Oh, like the weather report, right? Like you go for the earthquake report, like, oh, today might be a 4 or 5.
Oh, not quite. Yeah.
So dress appropriately, like wear better sneakers.
It has to be pretty dramatic for people to really talk about it.
Oh,
people will say, "Oh, did you feel the earthquake yesterday?" No,
All right,
me neither.
Well, to date, how many earthquakes have you felt?
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay.
I lived in California now for 21 years, so it's been a few.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. Okay. Well, that is something we should probably invest in, right? We should do that podcast, the earthquake podcast for Californians.
Sure. Yeah, we could do
that. Yeah.
Sure.
We'd make millions. So, I watched this show this week called Mako Mermaids?
Mako Mermaids, yes.
Mako Mermaids. Let's see here. That is the show. And what's it about?
So, Mako Mermaids is, as you might expect, about mermaids. Crazy, right?
Yes.
Okay, so there was a show. I think it's done. I should have looked this up. But, you know, we do half research on this show. There was a show called H2O, Just Add Water.
Okay.
This is a spin-off or a continuation or something like that. Okay. Someone can tell us later what it is.
Sure.
But the basic plot is that there are 3 mermaids living on an island somewhere.
Right.
And somehow this teenage boy finds the island and wanders around, and he falls into this magic pool, and he becomes a merman.
Right.
And then they start to have this interaction where the mermaids somehow hook up with people on land.
Right.
And they want to start exploring the land.
Of course.
But then other people figure out that there are mermaids and mermen, and they want to figure out the magic, and the drama ensues.
Right. Totally.
So, totally normal.
Well, as far as mermaid stories go, this is totally normal, right?
I guess.
Pretty much every mermaid story that's ever been is the mermaids are curious about land.
Right.
Right? And to be honest with you, who wouldn't be? Because there's less land on the earth than there is ocean.
Except in Pirates of the Caribbean, where the mermaids just kill all the pirates.
Well, but even they are interested in the land people.
A little bit, yes.
Right? They're like, I want to kill the land people.
Right.
Right? So.
Okay. What'd you like?
Well, okay, so this particular episode was season 2, episode 8. The title of the episode is called Land School.
Land School.
Right. So, and I think you kind of, reading through the script here, I think you kind of pinged off a little bit too, is that obviously this is serialized, right? It's a serialized show. It's not just a one-shot. You can't just sit down with Mako Mermaids and say, oh, I know exactly what's happening. That is not the case here. It is an ongoing plot. So we entered in probably in mid-season where actually a lot of things are going on. In this case, we were introduced through the 3 primary merladies, or mermaids.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess that's the call mermaid, right? Not merlady. Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Hey, nice merlady. Anyway,
well, because there's an older one apparently too.
Oh, that's right. There's 4.
I don't know if it's like a mermatron or I don't know, whatever it is.
That's right. Well, okay, clearly, but here, check this out. What we learned in this episode that a pack of mermaids is called a pod.
Yes.
Did you catch that? I was like, I never knew that. But
barely.
If I saw a lot of mermaids, I'd say that's a pod. That's a pod of mermaids.
Right.
So I did learn that. So one of the mermaids, so obviously there's a leader mermaid, but she's made a life of her own on land, and she's actually the principal at a land school.
Correct.
Right? And one of the mermaids gets very curious about going to land school, hence the title of the episode. And she actually goes to school with the mermatriarch.
Yes.
Right? Okay. And wacky hijinks ensue.
Yes.
Although there is some serious elements to the episode. Obviously, prior to this episode, we were introduced to a merman. From what I understand, and correct me wrong, mermen are not good.
I don't know.
Okay, it's like we don't, actually
he's sort of set up as sort of the sinister character, right?
Yeah,
like,
I'm not so sure.
There's a vibe there that he is up to no good.
Correct.
That he sort of looks like he wants to be nice. Like he acts like he wants to be nice. But once they start to trust him, then he's going to do bad things.
Right.
That's the tone.
If it is, okay, so it's a teenage drama.
Yes.
So there's a little meta here, right? So he is a hunky merman, right? Like he is dreamy, right? They're all beautiful people.
Yeah.
But there's angst there too, right? Like there's hunky dude, and there is this, really attractive female, but she's unsure. I'm unsure of you, but you're being nice to me.
Right.
But that also lines up with this whole merpeople plot, which is, well, mermen are not to be trusted, and this particular merman wants to figure out the secret, I'm guessing, to Mako Island.
Something like that.
Right. We could totally be wrong about that, but I can't say that he is seeking out something. So there's multiple subplots happening within this episode. There are actually lots of things I liked. I thought the characters were actually not very one-dimensional. I felt like there was actually some... I found the characters interesting. If I were to compare this to Saved by the Bell, there was never a single Saved by the Bell character that I ever went, I'm rooting for that guy, right?
Not Screech?
None of them. I'm like, they were so one-dimensional, and you knew how things are going to play out. And in this case, there actually, I feel like there was some plot and some writing involved to make the show at least kind of interesting, right? Like this villain here, well, he's kind of a good guy. In fact, the one villainous thing he does in this episode clearly could go both ways. It could have been an accident. It might have not been an accident, right? So the deal here is, so we've learned so much. The deal here is if you pour water on one of these merladies, they
go to mermaid mode.
They go to mermaid mode, right? So
but they can also make themselves disappear, apparently.
Right. So to correct me here, when they're on land, they can walk on 2 feet, but the minute water touches them, they become merpeople.
Yes.
Okay. So there's a point in the plot here where it might have looked like he poured water on one of the merladies.
Yes.
But we're not sure. He could have made a mistake too, because there's like a little side plot where his chemistry partner. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, the show was involved, and I actually, like I said, I kind of liked it, and I kind of liked a lot of the characters. I'm not in love with the show, but admittedly, I did watch the episode after that just because I was intrigued.
Okay. So I'm going to go the other direction, and I'm going to say,
okay. Okay.
This show just didn't do it for me. I don't know. This is the hard part, I think, and this is part of the reason that when we do all of these shows, we have to sort of step outside ourselves a little bit and say, okay, we're 40-something dads. We are not the demographic for this show. I felt a little bit, like grumpy old man watching this show, sort of saying, oh my goodness, could we force teen angst anymore in this show? These sort of longing looks at each other. I don't know. It didn't do it for me. It felt like a setup for future soap operas.
Yeah, I did like that statement. I like that. I think that's true.
We're basically just sort of saying, all right, we want you to watch, and I don't even know what the young people soap operas or the adult soap operas. We want you to start watching soap operas eventually. So we got to get you out of cartoons. So we're going to get you into a teen drama with beautiful people, and then we can start to set up these silly plots of teen angst, trying to solve strange relational problems that may or may not amount to anything. So, I mean, it's relatively, again, it's reasonably clean. If as a parent, you have to always keep in mind, particularly, sexual roles that girls and boys play.
Yep.
These are mermaids. We're running around in bathing suits all the time. We're in the water all the time.
Not all the time.
Well, okay, but that's
they were on land, Todd.
They were on land most of the time.
Did you watch the? Okay, yeah. I know you watched the episode, but I'm just.
But then there was also a couple mermaids that just seemed to hang out in this pool, just sort of chatting.
Yeah, they were in the grotto.
In the grotto.
They're in the grotto, and that's their home,
like that.
right? And they do magic there, and they sing because they're mermaids.
Yes.
And they have concerns for each other.
So it's always interesting when you watch, shows of any kind. Like, do you, either as a parent or just as a watcher in general, do you have expectations that there are going to be average-looking people at any point? As you said, they're all good-looking people. Except for the one sort of villain character.
Right, except for so she's the principal of this land school, and one of the land teachers is robust, larger than life, over-exaggerated, and mean.
Yes.
Right, and you could say ugly.
Yes.
Right, never smiles throughout the episode. So you're right. I mean, again, stereotypes are played up 80-fold, right?
Yes. At least she wasn't a math teacher. That would have been the go-to. To make the mean teacher the math teacher.
That's right. No, she was the science teacher.
Science teacher. That's like 1A after math.
That's right.
So, I think one thing to keep in mind, and just sort of an awareness to parents, as you said, this is intended to be watched the entire series.
Yep.
You can't sit down. I don't know about you, but yeah, when you sit down, and this is the one thing, and we should say, a reminder to people listening, we are intentionally watching one show.
Episode. Yep.
One episode of a show. Knowing that in some cases, I started watching the show 5 minutes in, I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. The show is clearly written to assume that you watched everything leading up to this point.
Mm-hmm. And there was no previously on Mako Mermaids.
Right. And that's fine. That's plenty of shows. Any serial drama or comedy where they put together a long, sort of drawn-out plot, they don't owe us anything with that. They'd say, hey, you can catch up, particularly nowadays with Netflix and on demand. How easy is it for people to catch up?
You could easily binge watch it.
Right. And catch up.
Yeah, and I got hooked, admittedly. I wanted to know what was going to happen next. I totally did. And I was tempted again also to find out what had happened in the episode prior. I also think that's another thing about this. So what's interesting about this too is that it's easy to binge on it.
It is.
Right? Which is another interesting new concern that we bring up in this new generation of television watching, is that you could literally watch Mako Mermaids for a solid 15 hours if you wanted.
Yep.
Right? And I'm like, I'm not exactly sure what that does to somebody's brain. Right? I don't know what on-demand binge watching does for you, but I can tell you that Mako Mermaids is designed to do just that.
It is. And I think a lot of shows are. And that's something that parents have to be aware of, that when you have particularly online streaming services where you have the whole season there,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be playing tug-of-war with your kids. That if you don't say, all right, you may watch one episode.
Yeah, right. You cannot do that with this. You can't do that with this show.
You can't just say you can watch some TV for a while, and you can't wait for the commercial break, because it's just going to go from episode to episode to episode.
Yep.
And it's set up to tease the kids and say, hey, don't you want to see what's going to happen in the next episode?
I was teased.
Right.
I wanted to know what happened to the matriarch.
And I didn't care. But that's okay.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not the demographic. I can totally see where a teenage kid is going to watch this and be all about it and want to know what's going to unfold.
Yes, and I do think it's a gateway drug to soap operas. You'd said that earlier. I think it totally is. It's, again, I think what struck me was there's a lot of originality. It's pretty creative, but it has all the classic tropes, and I've never seen so many good-looking people in my life.
Right.
Everybody is beautiful, and that for some people could be a huge turnoff, and and I think it's another thing to consider. Is Mako Mermaids Fire and Forget TV? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's the type of show where it'd be worth. I mean, we can say in general, parents should be generally aware of everything that their kids are watching.
Yep.
I would call this a show that has sort of a pre-sensuality theme. Young people sort of interacting together in close quarters. There wasn't really like a lot of I don't know, implied romance in this particular episode.
Right, and I'm sure there is.
But I've got to think that there is at some point.
Yep.
There's boys and girls in close proximity in a high school setting.
Incredibly attractive boys and girls.
Incredibly attractive people. They're going to be setting them up for some sort of connection at some point.
Sure, and the villain was actually using his prowess to, allure. Or he wanted information from Mimi. He actually didn't get the information that he was seeking, but he was using his male wiles.
Yes.
Right?
His hair product.
His hair product to attract her. And I'm sure that is a big factor in that show. And I'm sure people will write in and tell us, yep, that's exactly right. Or like, wow, it's just that one episode. I highly doubt it was just the one episode.
Yeah, I highly doubt it, too.
Where someone was sensualizing somebody else.
Yes. This is a teen soap opera.
Yep.
So, final thoughts?
Yeah, I think, again... I want to recommend the show, but I'm listening to you and kind of listen to even myself talk. It's tough because if I recommend the show to say somebody who's 15, they're going to watch that show. If I recommend the show to somebody that's 11 or 12, they're totally going to want to watch this show.
Right.
Right? And I go, I can't legitimately say, hey, just watch Mako Mermaids to an 11 or 12-year-old because I'm not sure I completely love the message. However, for quote-unquote its intended audience, I'd be like, yeah, I don't care. It seems benign enough.
Yeah, it's probably benign enough for a high schooler, but it's not necessarily going to be appealing to a high schooler.
Yes, I don't see a high schooler watching this.
It's going to be appealing to the preteen that is looking up to the high school age and being intrigued by that next level.
There's got to be better options. I guess I'll say is there's got to be better options.
Wow.
But if you're going to watch Mako, it ain't the end of the world.
As with anything else, parents, be aware of what your kids are watching. Watch a few episodes.
And follow us.
On Twitter.
On Twitter, but it's Parent Mistakes, not
Parent
Parenting
Mistakes.
Mistakes. If you go to like the i world, right, the iTunes place, it's Parenting Mistakes. But when you go to Twitter, it's Parent Mistakes.
It is Parent Mistakes.
Okay.